Today we're going to study the Vyakarana Sutta A442, the discourse on answering questions. This is found in SD 46.12. You notice this volume, the suttas focus on how to study the Dharma, how to teach the Dharma, how to discuss rules of communication. It's a very useful volume of teachings on how we can improve our speech and communication. This sutta is very straightforward. It's only one topic. It talks about the 4 ways of answering questions. The discourse, in fact the title means Panha means questions. In Thai, the word Panha means problem. So it's a modern related meaning. So Panha means questions. Vyakarana means solving or answering. So we have the discourse on answering questions A4.42. Now you can see A4 means a book of 4s. There's got 4 items. And 42, sutta number 42. I will read through this. There are 4 kinds of 4 ways of answering questions and explain their meanings. And then the sutta concludes with a set of 4 verses. There are bhikshus 4 ways of answering questions. What are the 4? There are bhikshus questions to be answered categorically. That is with a yes or no answer. In Pali, this is ekansa vyakarana or vyakaraniya. Ekansa vyakaraniya. Number 2, there are bhikshus questions to be answered analytically. In other words, in detail. Vibhajja vyakaraniya. Number 3, there are bhikshus questions that need a counter question. Patipucha vyakaraniya. Pucha means question, pati means counter, against, counter question. Number 4, there are bhikshus questions to be set aside, or this simply means to be left unanswered. The Pali simply tapaniya, to let it stand. These bhikshus are the 4 ways of answering questions. Okay, let us now examine what do they mean. Now the explanation I'm giving they're all found in the introduction to SD 46.11. So if you want to recap, and read up the introductions, especially section 2, the introduction to SD 46.11. So, the first way of answering a question is the categorical way of answering, either yes or no. It's quite a fixed answer. What are the examples here? The suttas have quite a number of famous examples. And basically here, let's say a simple example first. If someone asks you, does the Buddha teach karma? Right? So the question is quite direct. You will answer yes, the Buddha teaches karma. Right? So that is a categorical answer. Now in the Samannapala Sutta, for example, we have King Ajatasattu asking the Buddha, could you, Bhante, point out another example of point out a similar fruit of reclusion, visible here and now. So the king wants to know what is the immediate benefit of renunciation. And the Buddha replies, yes, it is possible, Maharaja. So in other words, the Buddha has been giving the Buddha answers the first question the king asks, and then gives one benefit, and then the king asks again, is there another benefit, is there another benefit, and this question goes on and on. And each time the Buddha says yes, and then he will elaborate when another question is answered. So the second kind of question would be asking for details. Then in another famous series of questions that need a categorical answer is found in the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, S22.59. Now the Samanyapala Sutta, by the way, is found in D2, Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, S22.59. So here we have the Buddha teaching the monks the nature of the five aggregates. The Buddha is teaching the three characteristics of the five aggregates, beginning with form. So here the Buddha asked the monks, now what do you think, bhikshus, is form permanent or impermanent? And the monks answer, impermanent, Bhante. Now here, although the answer is not yes or no, it's a one-word answer, it's a categorical answer, impermanent, Bhante. So this is also regarded as a kind of categorical answer, because here it's like a multiple choice or double choice, either A or B. And then the next question the Buddha asks, is what is impermanent, unsatisfactory, or satisfactory? The monks answer, unsatisfactory, Bhante. But here again there are two choices, okay? Pleasant, unpleasant, satisfactory, unsatisfactory, which one? So the answer is quite categorical, so it chooses one answer. The monks answer the question is unsatisfactory. Then the next question the Buddha asks is what is impermanent, unsatisfactory and subject to change, fit to be regarded thus? This is mine, this I am, this is myself. Right, so this question definitely you have to answer either yes or no. Here of course the monks answer no. Okay. So we have here an example of how categorical questions are asked and how the answers are given. And there's another example of a categorical answer found in the Maha Tanha Sankhya Sutta, M38. There the Buddha asked the monks, bhikshus, what do you think? Has this monk Sati, the fisherman's son, kindled even a spark of wisdom in this dharma or discipline? Right, so he's saying, well, this monk with the wrong view, has he any wisdom at all? And the monks replied, how can this be, Bhante? No, Bhante. Because despite the fact that the Buddha has explained in some detail to Sati his wrong view about consciousness and rebirth, Sati still holds on to his wrong view. So the monks agree that because Sati rejects the Buddha's answer, it's not very wise. So the answer is no, Bhante. Or how can this be? So notice here the categorical answer can be elaborated, but the answer is basically categorical. Now there's even another interesting type of categorical answer where there's only one answer. It's a short answer, but it's very clear. This is found in the Ottapada Sutta, D9. Here Ottapada is asked by the Buddha, and what Ottapada are the things that have been declared by me to be determinable or ascertainable? So here basically the Buddha is asking Ottapada, so what do you think is the teaching that I've been giving? So here of course Ottapada knows something. So Ottapada replies, here rather the Buddha is telling Ottapada what he teaches. So the Buddha says, this is suffering, Ottapada. I have declared as a determinable teaching. This is the arising of suffering. This is the ending of suffering. This is the path leading to the ending of suffering. Buddhapada, I have declared this as a determinable question, a determinable teaching of it. So here, the categorical answer is, or rather, the Four Noble Truths. This is suffering. This is the arising of suffering. This is the ending of suffering. This is the path leading to the ending of suffering. In other words, just the answer straightforward. No explanation given. No detailed explanation given anyway. When detailed explanations are given, then we call that an analytical answer. So this is the second kind of question and answer. Here we come back to this example can be found in the Anatta Sutta. Oh, no, sorry, this is taken from the commentary. And the commentary quotes this from another sutta. Okay, I don't have the sutta's name here, but anyway, it is in section 2.2.1 and also in 2.2.5. It's quoted in the commentary A8, volume 2, page 208. Here, the question is asked. Now listen, the question is very interesting. Is the impermanent the I? Now the question is not, is the I impermanent? Rather the question is, it begins with a category, kind of the adjective first. Is the impermanent the I? How should this be answered? This should be answered by a further distinction thus: not only the eye, but the ear, the nose, etc. are also impermanent, right? So notice here the question is asked, is the impermanent the eye? The question in other words is, okay, whatever is impermanent, does this refer to the eye? Right? Yeah, that's not a wrong answer, but it's not complete. So this is where, in an analytical answer, the teacher will say that's true, but not only the eye, but also the ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. So this is an example of an analytical answer, or more elaborate answer, if you like. Similarly, we have another example from the Mahakamavipanga Sutta. Here we have the Buddha explaining to the wanderer Pottaliputta. The Buddha says, when the wanderer Pottalipputta's question should have been analyzed before being answered, Samvidi, this misguided person answered it categorically. So here the Buddha is actually correcting the young monk Samvidi. He says this young monk answered the question wrongly. What it should be given in detail, he answered only briefly. So the questioner, the wanderer, Pottaliputta, was not happy about it. The wanderer Pottaliputta has earlier asked Samvidi this analytical question. Also, Samvidi, having done an intentional deed to the body, to speech, to the mind, what does one experience? So this obviously needs an elaborate answer. Somebody's answer is wrong clearly because the term intentional deed is ambiguous. So you should, in other words, you should ask, what do you mean by this term? And then go on to explain karma in detail, right? So this is an example of a categorical answer where this long answer is needed. Then you have in the Sakya Panha Sutta, S3815, the Buddha, could be the Buddha or could be someone else, asked, what, it's probably a monk here, what now, Avuso Sariputta, is self-identity? So this question definitely cannot answer yes or no, and the answer must be given in detail. In fact, in this sutta, Sariputta gives the answer which covers the rest of the sutta. So, questions which need detailed answer are called analytical questions. And the answer are also called analytical answer. It's a second way of answering. And the third one is a counter question. Now here, of course, very often nowadays we have this idea, not always right, that to counter question is to be evasive. Well, I suppose people do use counter question to evade answering a question, but there are valid users of counter questions too, especially when we're not sure why the other person asked the question. Or sometimes we sense that the questioner knows the answer, but he's not too happy with it, or maybe he's too sure of that answer, and he's just trying to find fault with you. So if there are any of such kind of understanding, we can ask a counter question to clarify the situation, to correct the situation, to help the questioner. Take for example, there's this counter question here in the Sutta commentary. Does the eye have the same nature as the ear? Does the eye have the same nature as the ear? Is the eye and the ear the same? Okay. So here the commentator says, an appropriate counter question would be, with respect to what? In what connection? Okay. What is the context of this question? If they reply with respect to seeing, then the answer should be no, right? So, is the eye and the ear the same? Same with regard to what? With regard to seeing. Of course, in that case, they're not the same. Okay? If they reply with respect to impermanence, the eye and the ear, in respect to impermanence, are they the same? And the answer, of course, is yes. So there you are. If someone asks you, are the eye and the ear the same? You don't answer right away because you're not sure of the context. So there are similar questions that we have to watch out. We have to be sure. What does that question mean? So we have to, in other words, examine the question carefully, and also, in a sense, try to understand the intention of the questioner. In the Kewada Sutta, D11, we have a question that is wrongly put. This actually is the fourth example, but here we have a counter question. This is towards the end of the story that the Buddha tells this Kewada about this monk who's able to meditate, and he has this riddle in his mind, where in the universe or in the world do the four elements disappear or end without a trace. So he goes to all the various wise people and all the gods right up to the Brahma world, and no one could answer him. And finally Brahma says, where do you consider the Buddha? He's the one who knows all these answers. And so he goes back to the Buddha, and this is what the Buddha tells him. Your question should not be phrased in this way. Where, Bhante, do these four primary elements, earth, water, fire, wind, cease without remainder? Right? That's not the way to answer. That's not the way to ask. So this is also an example of a question wrongly put. Where do the four elements, earth, water, fire, wind, disappear without a trace? Instead, the Buddha says, you should ask, where do earth, water, fire, wind find no footing? Here, long and short, small and great, fair and foul, name and form totally cease without remainder. Of course, here the Buddha is also teaching this monk, that this monk has some knowledge, some theoretical understanding. So the Buddha is putting together all these teachings and telling him, this is what you should have asked. So what the Buddha is saying, you actually know part of the answer in this. So you should ask a question to have a full understanding of this question. So where do these four elements find normal footing? And the answer, of course, would be nirvana. Now we have a very interesting counter question to show the wisdom of women. This comes from the short and beautiful Piya Malika Sutta, S 3.8. Here we have this king, Asenadi, asking his wife, the Queen Malika, basically, do you love me more than yourself? Okay, it's a very difficult question to answer. Or something like, who do you love the most, and so on. It's asking this queen. So the queen has to give an answer so as not to antagonize the king. Now let's look at the question that the king asked the queen. Malika, is there or not one who is more beloved than your own self? It's a sort of a trick question. Is there or not one who is more beloved than your own self? Is there someone you love even more than yourself? Now usually as far as the king is concerned, or his subjects will say, oh, we love you more than we love ourselves, we will lay down our lives for you, and so on. Now here the king asks the same question to the queen. And this reminds us of that famous Shakespearean classic called King Lear, where the king asks a similar question to his three daughters. Basically he asks the three daughters, tell me how much you love me. Okay? So how does Queen Malika answer? She replies, there is no one, Maharaja, dearer to me than myself. Wow, that's a very brave answer. There is no one dearer to me than myself, Maharaja. But she didn't stop there, because she's very quick to add. She gives a counter question. Okay, so that's the clincher, as we say. Is there, Maharaja, anyone more dear to you than yourself? Right, so Queen Malika asked the king, is there someone that you love more than yourself? So the king has to answer, no. Right? No, I love myself the most. In that way, the queen's answer is also validated. The queen is telling the truth. At the same time, she's not antagonizing the king. So here we don't answer just a short little answer, but we also added a kind of a counter question, so that we want to impress on the other party that here is the complete answer, and this is how the answer is conditioned, and so on. So the king, of course, impressed by the wisdom of the queen, tells the Buddha about it. Okay, then the fourth kind of question is very famous in Buddhism. Questions which should be set aside, tapaniya, because they are wrongly put. They're trick questions. Now in the Buddha's time, it is dishonorable to ask trick questions. In other words, true teachers and true followers will not ask trick questions. They will ask searching questions, difficult questions, yes. Today we find in religion, especially the evangelical religion, trick questions are often used. One reason is because the evangelists, those people trying to convert others, themselves are not aware of this, because they feel they are doing duty to their religion. What are some examples of modern trick questions, which should not be answered, by the way? A common trick question is, what do you think of God? Or what do you think of Christ? Well, you don't have to answer anything. It's got nothing to do with me, right? I mean, take for example the word God. What do you mean by God? Who's God? And there's so many ideas about God. Even among the God believers themselves, there is no common ground. Even among the believers of Christ, there's no common ground about who He is and so on. Of course, it's the same. Even in Buddhism, you have a similar problem here. So the question is wrongly put. We don't have to answer that. That's the best response to the evangelist. Sorry, I'd rather not answer. And once you do not answer, you are safe. They are not able to mess your mind up, so to speak. So another example of a wrong question is the mind and the body the same? Okay. So here again, once you say, whether you answer yes or no, you're tricked into accepting or rejecting the soul, right? So if you say yes, it's the same, so you already kind of automatically agree that there is a soul. If you say no, they are not the same, you also agree that there is a soul. Right? One of the famous scholars in his one, Rupert Captain, he gave another example of a trick question. For example, I can ask you, are Martians green? Are Martians green? Whether you answer yes or no, you are tricked into accepting the fact that Martians exist. So we can't answer in a categorical answer here. We can't answer in any way except your question is meaningless. How do you know? Yeah, you can ask the counter question. How do you know there are Martians? Or are you saying that there are Martians? So these are ways of being mindful. What kind of questions are we being asked? Are they meaningful or not? Are they useful or not? So we find lots of this example where the Buddha tells us to be very mindful about wrongly put questions, trick questions, useless questions. Why are these kind of questions not answered? They're not very helpful. They upset people, and they prevent us from being focused in our minds. And if you start thinking about these questions, you can't meditate. They're not helpful at all. The helpful questions are those that make you feel happy and peaceful, and they help you to meditate, to focus, to meditate, to be happy. So there you are. These are some examples of the 4 kinds of questions and how they are to be answered, and understanding how these questions are asked, understanding how to answer them helps us to learn the Dharma better, and also to carry on a conversation, discussion, which is helpful. Now we come back to the sutta. It closes with 4 verses. Ekang sa vachanang ekang vibhajya vachana parang tatiyang patipucceya chatutang pana tappaye. This is a summary of the 4 questions. One has a fully certain voice, yes or no. Another a voice that is analyzed, or instead of voice you can say speech or vachana. A third would question in return, but the 4th is set aside. So these are the 4 questions going to verse. Yo chate sang tata tata janati anu dhammatang chatu panhasa kusalo ahu bikum tata vidang. But these answers to this and that, who knows according to the Dharma, the true teaching, one skilled in the 4 kinds of questions, such a man, he truly is. So this poetic language, the one who knows these 4 kinds of questions and the answers, they are truly wise to that extent. Okay? Durasado dupasaho gambiro duppadangsio ato ate anattecha ubayasa hoti kovido. One hard to attack, hard to overcome, profound, hard to assail, further in what is beneficial and what not, in both he is adept. Right, so In this way, by understanding the 4 kinds of questions and the 4 ways of answering, you begin to understand the nature of questions, and therefore you also understand the nature of answers. And in that way you know what is helpful and what is not helpful in terms of speech and question and answer. Anatang pariwajjeti attang ganhati pandito atta bisamaya diro pandito ti pavujjati ti. He avoids the harmful. You can translate anatang as what is not beneficial. He grasps the beneficial. He is wise, steadfast in realizing what is beneficial. He is said to be wise. So here we're talking about speech as the source of wisdom. So the 4 ways of asking questions and the 4 ways of answering them are sources of wisdom. So in other words, one of the very basic foundation of Buddhist discourse, of talking Buddhism, is to make sure we ask the right kind of questions. Of course, we won't know how to ask the right kind of questions unless we simply try at first, just ask the questions, and then we can reflect, are these questions useful, how do we rephrase these questions. Sometimes the wise teacher will tell us, well, this is how you should ask a question, or this person may explain to you in some proper way of asking the question, and also why the question is answered in that way. And of course, he might talk to you about this sutta. So this one sutta, which is a key sutta, which talks just about the 4 ways of answering questions, and it's a very basic teaching which we should be aware of. And then from this sutta we can go on to study the other suttas in this volume, like the Kathavatu Sutta and so on. So we all grow in wisdom through studying the suttas. Let us now close this study with a short reflection. Wisdom arises through asking the right questions and also listening to the right answers that are given, reflecting on them. At first we may not understand the answers fully, but in due course, as we keep on asking the same questions, sometimes we may need to answer the same question again and again, which is fine, especially if we can find a patient and wise teacher. And in that way, we consolidate our wisdom grows like the roots of the lotus growing deeper and firmer, and this lotus plant can grow straight up through the dark waters and blossom in the beautiful sunlight. Reflecting in this way is wonderful good karma. By the virtue of such good karma, may we be blessed with courage and wisdom to aspire to at least attain stream winning in this life itself. By the power of the 3 jewels and all the good deeds we have done, may all our loved ones, our friends, relatives be well and happy. May they see the Dharma in this life itself. And also those who have taught us the Dharma have been kind to us, may they be well and happy. And by all the goodness of the 3 jewels too, may those who have not understood the Dharma, whom the Dharma have not touched, who have difficulties with the Dharma, may they too see the Dharma in this life itself. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.